Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast today. I have an awesome guest today, Dan Mauz from the Mauz Group here in New Jersey. So we've traveled a long way. As you know, my goal for these podcasts is just to take someone really talented like Dan, who's a high-producing real estate agent, and see if I can pull all of his secrets out, share with you guys. So if there's something you love that Dan says today or that we kind of come up with, then please share it with someone who you think would benefit. Thank you so much for making time to do this for us.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And just so you know, most guests, once they come on here, they're usually famous after this show.
That's fantastic. I love it.
No, I'm just kidding. But so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Dan, like what you kind of have going on here.
All right, so coming up on 40 years old. I've been in real estate since I was 20, so I'm going on my 20th year in real estate. January of 2005, I got licensed, so I have 2 young daughters, 9 and 5. I have a stepson who's 23. Been married for 10 years, so life is busy. I was in growth mode for a long time when my stepson was growing up in his teenage years. So it's having the challenge of juggling now. The 3, well, really 2 because he's an adult now, but that's been interesting. Nothing that I really ever thought of in the future, in the past, about my future and stuff like that. But in doing real estate over the last 20 years, I've learned a hell of a lot. Business. I started at 6 transactions in my first year.
Wow.
So I didn't just all of a sudden come out of the gates. But we've grown that. I've grown a team. Our best year was, units-wise, was 274 units, and
wow, that's awesome.
Volume-wise was 66 million. Every year, obviously with COVID, we've kind of, the change in the market, sale price has gone up. So, we've consistently been a top player in this market. In 22, we hit a little bit of a lull with the change in the market, but other than that, we've been steady overall.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. What year did you say you got licensed in?
It was January of 2005. I was part-time college student.
Okay.
I was a bus boy at a local restaurant, and then I hung my license thinking I was going to invest in real estate and be this real estate investor mogul, and I got into the sales aspect of real estate and
nice. Took
off from there.
Cool. So you did 6 deals your first year?
6. I was part-time. Give me a break on that.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, I think that's a lot. Like we work with new agents every day, and a lot of people listening are probably, I think that's respectable your first year.
Well, 2005, if anybody remembers, it was a very hot time. So,
right.
You put a
did that by accident?
Yeah, it's kind of like now you put a sign out and you had the buyers run into you. So, but my first deal didn't come until I think 6 months in. I was part-time. I was going to school. I was busboy. So I wasn't really into it. But and I'd say a year and a half into the business is when I went full-time. I did 12 units my second year, and then 15 the third year. But that's when I left that company and went to Keller Williams.
Okay, awesome. So your third year you did 15?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened from then? I'm assuming you went full-time into real estate at some point, right?
Yeah, so it was, I guess, May, June of 2006. I graduated college. I went to Rutgers Camden. So I graduated. I was a finance major. I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to go into real estate? Am I going to go finance? I'm going to be life insurance and all that. I'm like, I don't want to sell insurance. I'm already selling real estate. So I just gave real estate a shot. My broker at the time, he offered me a compensation package to kind of, I learned the business being an assistant and a buyer's agent first,
oh, cool.
Which was great. I learned 3 years of that knowledge under my belt.
That was before KW?
That was before KW.
Okay.
So when I went on my own, eventually, I was able to kind of have that foundation, and then people knew who I was. So, that was another thing there. They knew the name, like my database knew who I was. They knew I was in real estate. And I started to see some traction there. So actually my first year at Keller Williams, I did, I think it was 19 transactions.
Awesome.
So I capped, so that was a big accomplishment there. But my business wasn't very consistent. So at that point I hired a coach, the following year and really helped build consistency with the business.
Is that Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob was his first coaching client.
That's awesome. Well, I was just doing the math because he just told me he got out in 2007. So And if you started in 2005, so he was probably a year or two out.
Yep.
And he decided he wanted to do coaching?
Yep. So he gave me
cool.
a 90-day trial to see if it worked, and it's been working ever since.
There you go.
I mean, seriously, we went from doing, I went from being solo and doing, 2 transactions a month to, doing, I think, 54 transactions in 2012. So 2011, I was at 25 units. In 2012, by June, I was at 27. And I'm like, what the heck just happened here? Where did this come from? Like, I didn't do anything. I wasn't doing anything different than I was doing. It just, the activities just compounded on it.
Well, okay, so that's intriguing to me because that's what I'm always trying to break down is what takes somebody from 5 to that 20 mark. It seems like you had about 3 years where you were like in the same 10, like between 5 and 20, right? And then you almost more than doubled that.
So I would say this, the biggest thing that I've seen with my success is it's been gradual, then sudden. Right?
I got you.
So I've had a couple years at the same, and then boom, it happens, right? And a lot of that is because of the consistency factor of I focused on daily activities, I focused on my schedule, right? So it was simply just, I knew what I needed to do every single day.
Yeah.
Because of coaching with Rob, honestly, because he geared me to that. I would get up, I would role play, I would end up going into prospecting for a few hours, and then I was doing a lot of follow-up. I would say the key to my success was that I followed up, and I'm very good with follow-up, just even if it's just touching base by text or by phone. I'm very good with the follow-up, and I don't give up on people. I have a listing now that I talked to the guy back in 2010 or 11.
Wow.
Never did business with him, nothing like that, but until this year, I listed his place.
Wow, so that's almost, 12 years?
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what it was. And I had papers I would have notes on, I'd be at a home inspection, I would be going through my follow-ups, I'd be calling for sale by owners, expired listings. It didn't matter to me because my goal was I needed to hit 20 contacts a day.
And that seems to me like the difference between the 20 and 50 deals, like doing that.
Yep.
Because you probably, if I had to guess, you had a bunch of, like, people trust you, you're a good person. So that kind of gets you the 20 deals. Like, if you're a good agent, you have good contacts, and you're just out and about mingling, talking to people.
Yeah. Look, we're in a relationship business, and, there's some of the relationships are transactional, and you don't get much out of that, but others, they're really good relationships that you get to know people. They trust you, they like you, and they want to refer business to you. And that's happened to me many times over the course of my 20 years. And most of our business comes from either repeat customers, referrals, sphere of influence, agent-to-agent referrals. We work a lot with agents that are across the country. And thankfully, we're doing enough numbers that we show up as one of the top in the area, so that we get some calls from that.
Nice. Okay. So I'm going to hone in on that 20 to 50 jump you made. When you hired Rob as your coach, what did that look like? Like, what was different? Because I coach with Rob, and I know he's big on your database, but he's really big on for sale by owners and expireds. So
yeah, that's because he grew up in the business doing it. You and I both know that there's not as many expireds right now. There's for sale by owners for sure. The thing that I think helped me with Rob was I was very inconsistent with my daily schedule.
Okay.
I did not follow a schedule. I just went into the office and just started doing work. And then Rob geared me toward doing things more routine-based, right? So what was my morning routine? When I was having a hard time waking up, so what did Rob and I do? Like, we made our role play time either earlier or we started affirmations. And we actually, I can't even tell you how many years we've been doing affirmations for, but we've been very consistent with doing affirmations together. It's got to be over 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
And it was to help me get up in the morning because, I'll be honest, like sometimes I woke up, did the affirmations, and went back to bed.
That's so funny to me because we're in our workout accountability group, and you're texting at 4:30 in the morning, you just ran 10 miles. And I'm like, wait, this guy's a maniac, So, and it's snowing and raining outside, and I'm like, what's going on?
That is true. Here? This is true. It didn't just happen overnight. I honestly, I have to always recommit to running. Like today, I woke up, and I have an accountability partner with it, me and a friend here at the office. We run together. We're on a plan, and that plan tells us how many miles we're going to run Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. That's how we set it up. So I know those days they're the days I'm getting up to go run. And honestly, Brian, there's times I don't want to get up. And
Right.
it's, and there's times where, I'll still get there, but I'm like 5-10 minutes late for him. And, but we show up. And when I set the plan on these things, that's the one thing with me is I commit to that. I don't want to miss a run because I hate seeing the X there. I want to see all the check marks that it was completed.
Right.
So that was kind of like the mindset that I had with the business too, though, with am I making the 20 contacts? And then it turns into the appointment game of how many people do I need to go meet with in order to get to where I want to be with my closings and my income.
Right.
Right. And it's really, Rob always had the saying of who's my next appointment. Right. And that's a mindset that I wouldn't say I lost it, but it's not as prominent now in growing a team because I'm pulled in the team owner and leader aspect, and then I'm still in the business. So, recruiting's important for me, but it's not as important as sales are right now, right? So I'm pulled in different directions, and honestly, like that time running for me, or whether it's working out in my basement, is like it helps me get the day started. Like,
Right.
Yes, I'll be tired later on, but I pretty much accomplished all my mental things before 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
When I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Now, ask me about the days that I'm not running. They're harder to wake up. I don't have that accountability. I want to sleep in a little bit more and get that extra hour or something like that. But not perfect with it, but I'm more consistent than inconsistent.
Yeah. Do you notice that you're more consistent in your business the days you run, or do you think like like if I miss the gym, I start slacking off the rest of the day?
The morning routine is so critical. I think absolutely that I'm more consistent and I have a better work day when I have ran, or that I do get my workout in. Like Monday and Thursdays when I want to do the weights in my basement, right?
Right.
I honestly haven't done it in about 2 weeks, and it's but I'm running, and whatever.
Yeah.
But I also maintain what I'm eating, and if I'm drinking coffee, black coffee or water throughout the day. So it's not like I'm loading myself up with all these sugary drinks or anything like that, and it's just my preference. But I watch what I eat. I'm a tracker, so you hear me talking about numbers. I use MyFitnessPal, so I track all of my intake for what I'm eating. And even if I go out to eat, I try and enter in some type of comparable meal, right? So that I'm following that. And I'm doing a lot of running, so my metabolism's probably a lot higher, but I just want to stay healthy for my kids. I mean, that's actually what got me started with running. My daughter was about to turn 3 years old, and I was just sitting on the couch, and I'm like, I don't feel like playing, I don't feel like doing anything. I just worked all day, and I just felt lazy. And I'm like, I gotta do something. So part of the mastermind group with Rob, this was a former group we had back in 2017, 18, I was talking about this, and a mortgage guy that was in the group, he ended up saying, Danny boy, we're gonna run a half marathon. I'm like, all right. He's like, I'm gonna fly in from Canada, and I'm gonna come to the Philly Rock and Roll in September.
Oh, that's funny.
I committed to it. He couldn't make it for family circumstances, but I ended up running that. But I went on a training plan as of March or April.
Nice.
And I just stuck with it.
That's awesome.
But then, you hit the goal.
Right.
And then I hit that goal, and then I was like, I'm all right, I hit that, whatever. Then I did it again the next year. All right, I hit that goal. But then I did it again the next year, and I'm like, all right, I'm a little bit more consistent with it. And then it was during, I think 2021 after the summer, I'm like, I am so tired of being lazy and getting up late. I committed to running, and I think it was 13 months straight where I actually ran 100 miles a month.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I was a little disappointed that I ended up not hitting it, but the guys I was running with, we all kind of we would cancel or whatever on each other. One guy got hurt, so it just allowed me to have that excuse at that point. But yeah, my body's gonna feel it probably in a few years.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. I wanted to go back real quick. So you meet with Rob. He gets you into your schedule, right? And then that schedule you built, is there anything that was consistent from the time you started doing 20 deals to where you were running your team of 275 deals or 250, whatever the number was?
If I look at the key things, it was lead generation activities and follow-up, of course. I always worked on my skill set, but I think the biggest thing that helped me when I did double was leverage. I think leverage was key for me. I ended up hiring showing agent to help run the buyers, right? I did have a quasi partner at the time too, so her and I would run the business, and We had a couple assistants, but it was just two agents working together that were splitting expenses really. Like I had my book, she had her book, but we had assistants that we would pay. And when my business kept going, I was leveraging a lot more with the assistant, and that helped me maintain who's my next appointment, who am I going to meet with, to where I was able to go on over 100 listing appointments in a year.
Wow, that's awesome.
And not worry about the paperwork to go on the back end and things like that. And now, that's the backbone of the Mauz Group right now. We have a great operations staff. They make things go on the back end. They handle all the compliance with the office. They're always evolving whatever we're doing. And you and I shared like our agent portals and things like that. We're always trying to provide value for the agents, but also provide more leverage so we can do our job and not have to take an hour to go put an offer together. The way we submit an offer is different than you guys, but still though, we want to make it as easy as possible whenever we can.
That's great. I remember the day my assistant came up here and shadowed your girls, it was like night and day. Like she came back and she was like, we got to put all these systems in place. Like, it was awesome. I remember being like, hey, Dan, like, is she come again next week?
Yeah,
like,
right. She never showed up.
No, I know, right? One of the hard things for me whenever I get leverage is, all right, like I just did this, right? So I just hired a girl in our office to be like our broker. So she's now answering all the agents' questions. And I have this huge gap of time now where I'm like, the only way that leverage is going to help you grow your business is if you fill that free time. Like you can't use it to go slack off, but that's where I'm at right now, and I'm trying to fill that and say, all right, what's the best use of my time? I would assume the listener is probably someone who's an agent doing between 5 and 50 deals. What would your recommendation be for them, like once you get that leverage?
Everybody has a different mindset about it. We were two agents working together, so we found leverage very quick. And the first thing that we leveraged was like uploading listings to the MLS, right? And doing like some of that Facebook marketing and stuff that we were doing back then. That was the first thing that we leveraged. I've just followed naturally the MREA book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, right? So it's the red book. So that's like the Bible of, Keller Williams, but it's really not a Keller Williams book. It's a model for building a real estate business. It's a model to follow. It's not like, hey, you have to do it this way, but it's a good model to follow. And the first thing is when you get to a certain point, I think it was like roughly 36 transactions is when you hire your assistant. If you can manage 36 transactions on your own to get to the next level and not take away the service that you're providing or take away from your activities, you need that leverage. That's where they're at, is don't try and leverage it too early unless you have the fund to do it, right? If you have the money set aside, I guess, and that's the two schools of thoughts there. But I was more so, we waited until we were both busy enough. We were both doing about 2 deals a month. So that was a good time for us to leverage something. And it helped me grow that way. But then a lot of people I want to grow a team, right? And then they're like, I'm going to get a buyer's agent. Like, I didn't just go out and hire a buyer's agent. Like, they were a showing agent first. And then we hired buyer's agents because they want to buy their time back, but it's for the wrong reason sometimes.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the assistants, like I think the first level is you by yourself. Second level is you and an assistant. Third level is you and 2 assistants, where one becomes a transaction coordinator, right? So they're the key things so you can provide that service. And then as you get into the 4th level, you're looking at potentially there's different schools of thoughts there. Like, do you hire the buyer's agent or do you go the showing agent route? I love the showing agent for myself because a lot of my business is referral based, but I also don't want to be doing sales forever. So, that's something I struggle with personally is like, all right, well, I could take this buyer, I have this showing partner that's going to help me with this, right? And I provide them an opportunity and, mentor them as well. But it's just, I think what a lot of people do is they just kind of start throwing things together without having a plan in place. So as you're here, treat it like a business from day one. Because if I could go back, it would be, hey, get your business, your organizational chart for where you're at now, all the way through 10 years out. I never took the time to do that, and I kind of work backwards a little bit. Makes it harder to run the business at that point because you're getting the commission check in, and if you're not treating it like a business, you're just keeping it all. And you might put some away for taxes and expenses, but then everything else is there. But if you pay yourself as an agent, then okay, what do I need to generate when I hire an agent to replace me as that agent?
Right.
That's kind of where I think that's kind of the biggest thing when you're seeing that growth and that leverage is treat it like a business from day one.
Right.
And then everything will become.
Yeah, I'll be vulnerable with you guys. I still don't have my organizational chart and mapped out to where it's going in the future. And that's kind of where I'm at.
I'm with you.
We're overloaded here.
Yep.
And I need now we're like, my transaction coordinator's overloaded. We need to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we got to figure that out. So
I completely understand.
it's so true. I see so many agents say, I want to start a team, and they just go find another agent, and now they're just two agents both doing their own business, you know?
Right, exactly. And really, what's the value proposition there, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to build a value proposition for an agent that they can come in and focus on. I always say there's 5 things. There's self-development, lead generation, follow-up, negotiating, and appointments.
Right.
I mean, they're the 5 things that an agent really needs to be focused on. We got everything else covered for them.
Right.
They want to do marketing. We have a marketing director. They want to get listing documents prepared. We have an easy way to go about that. Our transaction team, our listing manager, they've already prepared things for us that we can just take and go. We have everything ready for them. It's just their job is to go out and build relationships.
And it's crazy because someone could join your team today, and the first 5 years of your business is just shortcutted for them. Like, they just come in and have that.
Right. I mean,
know?
look, somebody told me this before about, things like, hey, look, I'm sure you'll get there eventually, but you can get there a lot faster if you partner with someone. And partnering is getting into the right system for yourself.
Yeah.
It's got to be that right fit too. Like, not everybody works out. I mean, I've gone through countless agents that have come and gone, but I do have some that have been with me since 2016.
Yeah.
16, 17. They do stay for quite some years, but you always got to, as a team owner, there's always got to be growing that value for them, and the value proposition is everything.
Yeah, 100%. They don't have to go through all the dead ends that you like they can come in and know, this is what your schedule needs to look like, right?
Right, exactly.
Versus
Then it's holding them accountable to it.
Right, yeah. All right, so I haven't asked any of the questions on here yet, but actually, before we dive into those questions, you mentioned 2 things. You said you do prospecting and then you do follow-up. So I know the difference, but what do you define as the difference there?
So prospecting is your lead generation activity that opens up the door for follow-up, right? So you're building a relationship with somebody, you're building a nurture opportunity.
So people you haven't spoke to before.
People I haven't spoken to before, or that's your haven't met database, right? Like expired, for sale by owners, circle calling, whatever the case is, right? Or you're calling your database with, and the goal for that is to get an appointment with them.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the appointment, make sure you keep the relationship open so you can follow up. Right. The other side is your Mets, the people that you already know, your database, your past clients that you're going to call and say, hey, who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, right? Or how can I help you? Have you ever thought about buying an investment property? You have young children. It's a great time to buy an investment property, get a rental income before they turn 18, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So your goal when you're talking to people you know is to get a referral and to strengthen your relationship. And the goal with somebody who you don't know is really you're calling them to get the appointment. You want to get together with them face to face and talk about what you can do to help them with their move, whether it's a buyer or seller.
Okay, perfect. Most agents, they don't have that follow-up database, right? So would you recommend their first half of the day is just prospecting?
Yeah. I mean, they should be going through their cell phone, number one, and building out their database. I followed Brian Buffini for a few years.
Yeah, same.
I like his model of your top 100, right? And now, I've been working on my database. There's 20-something hundred people in there that I consider, and I have to narrow that down because there's just too many that really are in there, and I got to really see who are my top people, right? So who are VIP clients. So Brian Buffini says, you have your C's, who are people that, you want to convert to a B, right? Which is a B is someone who, if given the opportunity, would refer you. And then you want to get the B's to be an A, which is someone that has referred you in the past. And then the A's, you want to be A pluses who refer you multiple times a year. Right. So you want to go from C to B to A to A plus at that point.
And that's your follow-up game.
That's the follow-up game. But as I said earlier, a transactional relationship, people can see that, right? They can feel that. So it's getting to know people, right? It's being more personable with them. Maybe not every conversation is, who do you know that wants to buy, sell, or invest? So how can I help you? Maybe it's just, hey, man, I saw on Facebook that you went here. That's awesome. How was it? I've been dying to go there, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. It's just find something in common with them.
So you recommend, and we actually did our new agent training yesterday on just filling your database. So you recommend putting your cell phone contacts in,
yes,
right? The
absolutely.
whole thing, and then categorizing them. It really should be everyone you've ever met, right?
That's pretty much what mine is a lot of people that I meet that I feel as though I can connect with them. It's not just a random person, right? If I met them at a networking event, it's not like I'm adding them to it, but also they're in my business to business network, right? So then they're categorized differently in my database as well. But the one thing that I did when being 20 years old, getting into it, is I went through my yearbooks.
Yeah.
Literally, I went through yearbooks and I went through Facebook, and Facebook at the time, it was like, you went to your friends list and it was A to Z. So it was easy to just kind of go through, and I would message people on there. Some people were receptive. Some people were like, dude, why are you messaging me? Like, this is annoying, basically.
It's a pyramid scheme, whatever.
Yeah, like building out that database, I then went through and I would just go down the list, A to Z, and I would make 10 to 20 calls a day.
And what do you, so a lot of the newer agents like, what do I say? And I'm telling them, like the one girl said, in my email list, like I have her daughters are in sports and like their other kids that are playing parents. She's like, I have all their name, email, and phone numbers. Like, do I call them? I mean, would you call someone like that, or would it be?
I would try to strike up conversation
like at the sporting game?
The sporting event with them and get their permission to become their realtor. Or a realtor they would trust.
Which that's a little bit of an awkward. Like, do you have a script for that? I mean, or is it?
You know what? We went through Brian Foraker training earlier this year, and he did have some type of script for that. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I mean, they have the one that's like, if you or someone was thinking about buying or sell, do you have a real estate agent? Or,
Yeah, so that's one of them is like, hey, I'm just curious, if you hear of someone who's looking to buy or sell, who's the realtor that you would recommend them to? And they're like, nobody. Say, hey, great, I would love to be that person.
Yeah.
Can I stay in touch with you from time to time? Yeah, or hey, I like to deliver value to the people in my database, the people that I know. I'm a connector, so I like to connect people for whether it's a contractor, whether they need a dentist, whether they need a plumber. I want to be that person. I have that Rolodex of people. I just had somebody the other day that texted me, hey, who do you know for this? And boom, there you go. So I look good to that person as long as that other person delivers service, right?
Plus
the business owner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Plus the business owner wants to send you stuff. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. And I always go simple, like, hey, how's work? And then boom, they come back and ask you how's work.
Exactly.
Everyone wants to know about real estate.
Ask questions. I mean, the best script is asking questions.
And to your point, like, I don't even think you even need to talk about real estate. Like, you could call them and say, hey, how's it going? That was a good game yesterday, whatever.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. See you later. And if you're just their friend, actually, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Most people, they want to get to know you. So, like, being more personable on social media, not just always business, not just putting listings out there. Let them know that you have a family, you have a life, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't post a lot on social media, and we have to get better with that on my end.
Well, I think that's an easy way to follow up with your sphere of influence is if you're friends with them and you're posting videos, you're giving them a real estate related message without even having to bother them, So everyone I asked Rob what your best qualities were, and he says you're building relationships with people. So I guess we kind of talked about that, but while we're on that topic, is there anything else you would recommend?
When I first started out in the business, I was kind of a secret agent, right? I mean, I wasn't really vocal about it. I had a family member, they had bought like a small condo, and I'm like, yeah, man, why didn't they use me? And I'm like, they didn't even know I was in real estate, so that's probably why, right? So it's really like, just making sure that you're out there to the direct people that you know first and foremost. But when you're at an event, don't be shy. Like I tend to stand off and go with the comfortable group that I know rather than going out and meeting new people. Be aggressive, be assertive. I think, ultimately, put your hand out and shake their hand and say hello and introduce yourself. I find that, if I'm, when I'm not in work mode, I tend to overhear a conversation, but then never really go and introduce myself.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. Like you're at a restaurant, someone's moving.
Right.
And it's like, do I get up and interrupt their meal or what?
It's funny, I was driving through a neighborhood yesterday and I saw a dumpster in a driveway and it said something about like an estate sale coming up. And I'm like, I should go knock on that door and just go introduce myself. I'm like, nah, I got to get to here. And I'm like, man, I might have had a listing there. You know? Like, who knows?
Could have been,
I did
if they owed you 10 grand, would you stop and ask them for it?
Right.
That's how I look at it a lot of times. We have a couple people, and it's always hard for me to help agents. Like one guy who I was interviewing with yesterday, he's moving up from North Carolina, and he's like, I'm here, I'm starting from scratch. Like, I'll do whatever you tell me. I want to sell 100 houses next year. And I'm like, well, you don't have a sphere of influence, I mean, what are the options there?
Go do open houses.
That's what he wants to do. That's what he said.
Circle call. I mean, there are so many people that you can call or go door knock. You just got to be aggressive. You have to go out and do it. You have to take action on things. Nothing's going to happen if you're passive. And that's the difference with prospecting is being passive or being proactive and not passive. For me, doing an open house, I was very passive when I was doing the open house, but there are proactive ways of doing an open house. So I think there's ways that you can go about it.
Yeah, and especially with stuff like ChatGPT, like you could literally, hey, I'm doing an open house. How can I maximize the amount of leads I get, right? Here's what I'm looking for. That was kind of what we came up with, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things with video and ads we talked about, but that's the biggest thing. So is there a way that you track and measure your effectiveness when you're prospecting? I mean, you mentioned that, but for me, it's always hard because I have the dialer going and,
So
you know.
Tell me more about what you mean by my effectiveness.
So are you saying I got a contact, or are you saying like interested, not interested, like leaving?
Okay, so if I have a contact and it goes nowhere, boom, it just gets checked off as a contact.
And what do you do? What do you check it off on, like your CRM?
I have a sheet that I use to this day that has the number of contacts that I've hit on there, so it's visibly in front of me, and then I go put my numbers into whatever my system, the interactive business plan, or whatever spreadsheet I have that tracks that.
So every day you're making your calls, and every time you talk to someone, you're checking it physically off on a piece of paper. Every call you make, you're checking off?
Every contact.
Okay.
So anytime that I get someone on the phone, whether it's somebody in my database, or if I shoot them a text and we have a two-way conversation. So there's two-way conversations and there's one-way, right? So like sometimes, you're leaving a message for people in your database, and don't be afraid to do that, because I've gotten business from people because I've just been consistent every few months with checking in with them. And if I don't talk to them, I don't talk to them, but I drop value in their voicemail, and eventually something comes up, right? Because we'll run into each other or talk at some point, right? But I just want to be top of mind for them. But the two-way conversations, they're the ones that I'm tracking on that sheet.
Okay.
And they're the ones, even if somebody, if I'm calling expired listing and it's, hey, is this Dan? Yeah, who's this? It's this Dan with Keller Williams Realty. Not interested. Like, that's a contact, right? The goal is you have to get past that intro on those cold calls, and you have to get over that hurdle, right? A lot of people are afraid to make that call because of the rejection, but you're just one no closer to a yes. And it's a numbers game.
Right. So, I always fight with my coach about this, because I say, what's the point? Like, I'm just calling as many people as I can every day in that hour.
Yeah, I mean, I get the school of thought there, and the goal is to have conversations. So like, to get back to what I do when I actually have a conversation with somebody that's a nurture, I'm setting a follow-up with them in my system. If I didn't set the appointment, I'm making sure that I set a follow-up with them.
Right.
So that's the key thing that I'm doing there, rather than just letting it go. Because most agents will do that and they never follow up. It's like, well, what's the point of you doing the prospecting if you're not going to follow up with people?
Right. Yeah. It's tough, because I like how you divide it into two different groups, because it's hard to, like, a lot of times I'll be prospecting, right? And then I'll have like someone from my sphere text me, and I'm like, oh, let me stop prospecting and do that. But if you have that time scheduled, like, oh, follow-up starts at 11, I'm going to answer him in an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here sitting with you. I'm not going to go answer my phone while I'm doing that, right? So why don't we treat prospecting that way?
Right.
If you're with a seller, you're not going to answer your phone. Right. Why do we treat the time with our family that way? Right. It's hard. It's not easy. Trust me, I have two little kids. I'm on my phone constantly. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's it's easier said than done, but it is the mindset of, if we're in an appointment, we're not looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm at the dentist the other day trying to get a contract out. She's cleaning my teeth, and I'm like this. Like, literally, I'm like, I kid you not. Like, and it was just a situational thing. Then I get sucked into this email. Then I'm sitting there like this, and she's like, just move your phone over here. She was totally fine with it, but I'm like, I'm like, what in the world did I just do?
That's so funny. So that brings me up to my next conversation. I think I have 5 or 6 agents at my office that are all missing their prospecting, and we ask why, and they always have these extravagant answers, but most of them is, I don't want to be an absent parent, I want to spend time with my kids, I can't prospect because I have a baby. So what's your, I'm sure that was a real problem in your life at some point, right?
Look, it's always a challenge, and thankfully, like, my wife is at home and she takes care of the kids, right? So thankfully I have that.
Right.
I know that a lot of people don't have that. It's following a schedule.
Right.
Just follow a schedule. Build the schedule around it.
Right, like kids go to sleep, right?
Yeah, if you have your kids from 9 to 11 a.m., start your prospecting at 11:30, right? You got to build it around it. You can't let that be an excuse to grow your business. My daughters when I'm home and I'm working from home, my daughters are there. Like, I do go in the basement. They're 5 and 9, so it's a little bit easier. But when they were younger, I did the same thing, where I was having them, like, they would be playing and I would do some work and then I would maybe take a break, right? But honestly, like, it's a discipline. It really comes down to the fact of priority. Like, yes, the children are the priority at that time, right?
Right.
But what about the people that like their friends are going out? Because I grew up in the business when I was in my 20s. Friends are going out to the bar. Do I want to go out with them at 6 o'clock or do I need to go show houses? Well, I committed a lot more time to my business than other people did. Yeah. And I was super focused on making sure that I was hitting those numbers because I knew that for every, let's say, 25 to 30 contacts, I was getting an appointment.
Right. And then you have your appointment to deal ratio, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the coaching with Rob really came in, is like really tracking all the numbers. And I became obsessed with tracking it. And we set a goal to sell 100 homes the one year. And I remember specifically in that same mastermind group, right? So I set accountability behind it, and it was 100 units. And my business, I ended up selling 108 units that year. And it was a race between me and another guy in the group. We were going back and forth, and we get to 90. And I'm like, this is amazing. But I would have never done it without leverage, number one. But I would also never have done it if I didn't have a schedule that I followed. And you know, it's hey, I'm supposed to be here at this time, and this is what I got to do. And look, there are times where I let a lot of things come into my calendar now that I probably shouldn't. And I'm going on vacation next week, and I'm going to come back refreshed, and my schedule is ready to go to produce 10 or more units a month.
Yeah,
I have to do that to get this business where I want it to be.
What does that look like?
What does my schedule look like?
To do 10 deals a month.
My lead generation is going to be anywhere from 9:15, because we have team huddle until then, so like 9:15, 9:30, and it's going to run 3 to 4 hours long.
Nice.
Are there going to be days where I'm going to have to reschedule and do some things? Absolutely, but I have to ask myself over and over again, is this so important that it comes onto my schedule? I have to keep doing that. Mainly who I'm going to be calling and touching base with is going to be my database. I mean, there's 2,500 plus people in there. I think I have enough people there that I could be calling each day to try and generate things. Plus, organizing it and things like that is going to be important. So it's like I'm going to go through and really hone in on, are they an A plus, a C, or you know what? Do they just become a mailing list type person? Did I ever hear back from them? Did I ever get anything from them? Like, so that's the thing, is I want to really take my time and focus it more on the top clientele. But then, because I also want to go out and I do want to build up the agent base here. So, right now we're at 6 agents plus myself and then 4 admin, but we're not bringing in as much business as we need to. So, I have to be the driver there, but also have to attract people that want to come work with us. Yeah,
that's great. I mean, it's hard to do, but I'm in the same boat. It's like you hurry up and recruit, and then you're like, shoot, I don't have any business. I spent way too much time on that.
It's got to be a healthy mix. And the key thing is, like, so that's my morning. So my morning is I do role play. So I will role play with each team member pretty much around like 8:45. We have a team huddle at 9. 9:15, I'm doing a recap with my virtual assistant for transactions. And then I'm getting into my day. Where I could use some accountability is getting into the office, ideally by 8 a.m., honestly, if I really want to get a great start. The days that I run, that's easy to do. The days I don't run, that's where I need that accountability. But ideally, get in by 8:30 at the latest,
right,
to get set up for my day so that I can hit the prospecting and not worry about email and stuff like that. And then make sure that my time blocks are there, that if somebody says, hey, you want to go grab lunch today, and it's not in my schedule, I say, hey, I could do this, or no, I'm so sorry, it just doesn't fit in my schedule right now. Because that's the time stealer right there, is when you just start doing those things, and it's like, you have to really look at it, and it stinks because saying no to people is not easy. But if you really want to get to the next level, you're going to have to start saying no to a lot more. Then the afternoon will come into the appointments.
And you're going on the appointments?
I go on appointments, yeah. I pass, obviously I'm giving business out to the team, but I am going on appointments. I mean, I have a goal to go on appointments. So the biggest thing there is, though, if my nights are limited. Okay. So I try to get as much as I can. I do work nights at times, but I check with the wife and say, hey, do we have anything going on this night? So
awesome. So you work backwards, right? So all right, I need 25 contacts for one appointment. How many appointments do you think for a deal?
It depends. I mean, for listings, if it's coming from people that I know, it's probably like an 80 to 90% conversion rate with those ones.
So you say about every 50 contacts you're getting a closed contract?
Probably about that, yeah. And sometimes it's even less than that, because let's face it, people end up reaching out to you because they're top of mind.
Right.
Like the other day, I have a buyer showing today with a cousin of mine who just randomly reached out to me, hey, do you want to show me and Tim this house? And I'd be honored to.
Yeah. Do you have a criteria for like what you will do versus what you we'll get help from someone else on? Like for me
So-
personally, I like to do my friends and family. It's
Yeah.
fun for me,
It
for my
does-
sisters.
It
I'm just kidding.
It does vary. I should have a stricter way of going about that, but I do kind of just pick and choose which ones. Like we had a lead come in yesterday for a listing, and I called it back. I set an appointment. It's a random online listing. I asked her where she found it. She said I just searched online. If friends or family reach out to me about about listing their home, I'm jumping on it. If I have a random buyer that reaches out, pass that right to the team. If they reach out about a listing, pass that right to the team members. That's what the value that we provide them is we're going to feed them the leads. But if I get a referral from somebody, I get it teed up with an agent on the team, make sure that they're getting, and this is for buyer sides, making sure that they're getting in touch with them. And mainly I'm passing, the majority of buyers are going leverage to the agents on the team. That's the value I provide to them.
Okay, awesome. Let me keep going through here. Do you have any ways? Do you schedule time to grow professionally, or I know we're doing the hero's journey together.
Yes.
Right now. You do anything else along those lines? Is that scheduled? I know we were actually just talking about that. But
so every day, I kind of focus on self-development. I listen to a podcast, a little bit of a podcast. I listen to an audiobook. I listen to the Darren Hardy training. Spirituality is involved there, so I'll listen to a couple things there. I read a passage in the Daily Stoic for it's called the Daily Data, if I'm not mistaken. So I read a passage out of there. So every day, and this is every morning that I'm doing this and throughout the day, and I check it off. I use an app called Streaks where I created all these habits that I want to check off.
Got it.
And then anytime a training comes up or something like that, and I think it's worthwhile, I try to get there. I haven't been traveling to like the conventions as much lately. It's kind of what I do want to get back into that because that's a relationship thing.
Yeah.
It's not even for the knowledge base there because you'll get that. It's more for the connections with the friends and agents across the country.
So as you get bigger, as you start to scale and you have all this stuff that keeps adding onto your schedule, sometimes I find that it's hard to be like, wait, I need this time for my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you have any barriers you set up? A lot of people always ask me, is there a balance? How do you maintain balance? Stuff like that. I guess that's what I'm getting after.
So if you ever read the book, The One Thing, they kind of say like, there's no such thing as balance, but it's counterbalance, right? I look at that, like I'm always counterbalancing things. Like my daughter's in softball right now and I absolutely love helping coach with her. I wasn't going to do that this year unless asked, and another dad stepped up, so I ended up helping out to try and help the coach out, and I ended up absolutely loving it. So now every practice that she has for the All-Star team this summer is I'm there, and that's from 6 to 8, and I'm making sure I'm there. And it's a little hectic during the, because I'm used to the work carrying over a little bit, and some days are busier than others. Every now and then, something does come up. Like yesterday, I was on my phone a little bit during the practice, but I was there, right?
Yeah.
I do try to have some time, but like weekends, I don't go out as often on the weekends as I used to. I do still take some appointments on the weekends because you can't fit it all in during the week sometimes.
Right.
But I wouldn't say that I ever really turn it off.
Right.
I'm like, for my team members, I'm always available. And it's just, if I'm not available at that minute, I will get back to them.
I think, I guess that was always my answer. There really isn't a balance. It's like, you have to. I mean, at least for now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there really isn't anything that's like, hey, look, you won't get me from X to X. Now, when I'm prospecting, we try to say, hey, look, that's a conversation we can have after prospecting. Like, let's stay focused on that. And it's hard because not everybody has that mindset, and it is a mindset. You have to really train into that. I never was that guy starting out. Like I said, I didn't really use a calendar and a schedule, and I've been more accustomed to it lately.
One of the big things about Rob he uses is closing out your day. You have a system for how you close out your day, your week, planning your schedule?
So I'm not as good with the week. I don't really look at the weekly numbers and my activities throughout the week, but I do the daily. Kind of just because I go through the motions at times, and it's just one of those habits that I have. Like, I always make sure that my numbers are up to date, and if I didn't get to it that night, I do it the next day. But I am typically I clear my inbox constantly, which is one of the negative things about my personality. Is I hate seeing
You read your own email and everything?
I do, for the most part. My assistant can be in there at times, and she'll clear out the nonsense. But I will go through, I'll update all my tracking areas, right? The interactive business plan and some other things. We use Clarity Now. So that's been big with the team. That's a little bit easier to utilize with the team is Clarity Now. So that's a That's actually a really good program that people should look into.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
And then I have a spreadsheet that I put it on. And then I will go through my CRM, and if I have tasks outstanding, I'm trying to push them, because how many times do you see people that have these tasks that it's like
I have 99 tasks, right? And I'm done.
But they're all overdue.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't stand that at all. Like, I want to keep it up to date, because that's when I like clarity. Like I like a clean house, like a clean desk. So when you're I'm an organized mess sometimes, right? When you're unorganized, that is like, it's torture. Me and my wife are total opposites.
Yeah.
So, I'm the one that's like the neat freak.
That's awesome. So closing out your day, it's so hard for me to stay consistent with that. Like I know I need to do it.
It helps you, because then you're preparing for the next day.
Right.
So, when I was cold calling, the expireds, I would have to go in and get the expireds every day and all. So it's like, preparing for the next day was really important. So I wake up, I know what I'm doing that day, and boom, my day's done.
100%.
My calendar is all color coded out already, like everything there. If I gotta change something, I change it, but I try not to.
Yeah, I changed you told me about changing the colors too. That helps me big time.
Green's for money making activities.
Is it?
Yep.
That's awesome. So real quick, as we're wrapping up, what would you say if you're talking to someone who's doing, a new guy comes to your team tomorrow, he's like, Dan, give me the secret sauce. What would you say is what they should do to get them to that 20 deals or the 20 guy to 50?
So we have to set a goal.
Okay.
Right. So we want to know where they want to get to, have the end in mind. And then we have to build out what each day needs to look like. KW has what's called the economic model, which tells you how many contacts a day you need to make to hit your goal of however many closings to get however much income you want.
Okay.
It's going to also break out how many appointments you need to go on, and listings you need to take, and buyers you need to work with, and everything like that.
So they could probably Google that and find
Yeah,
KW
it's called the economic model.
KW economic model.
Yep.
And they'll give you guidelines like
How to fill it out.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Fill
Very,
that out.
very straightforward. And what's going to happen is, as you're tracking your numbers year over year, you're going to get to learn your conversion ratios, which is nice. Because then you can kind of predict what's going to happen in your business if you maintain the activities. So that's the other thing, is be consistent with your activities. If there's anything else, just be consistent every day.
Yeah.
Even if you're making 5 calls a day, go make 5 calls a day. Meet 5 new people a day. Like, just do something.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be active in it. If you're going to be passive and hope that business comes to you, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, not at all.
Especially nowadays with all the changes that we're going through. This is a skill-based market, and it's always been a skill-based business, but people have gotten lucky to not put the time in and still get business done. And you work with some agents and you're like, how in the world do people trust you?
Yeah.
And it just is what it is.
Yeah. It's crazy right now. It's tough. Everyone I talk to that's like in your role or like high up, they're getting back into production hardcore, just like you just said, all in on production, because the market's, it's tough. But, it should be getting better as the year goes on. And all right, so that's it. Follow the KW economic model and just stick to it.
Be consistent with your activities, know who you're going to call, close your day out, prepare for the next day. Those are all the key things that I do and has made me successful. There is literally no magic pill to this.
Yeah, I keep asking the same questions differently, and you're like, call your database, basically.
It really is that simple, but it's that hard because it's just a challenge to get past our natural behaviors.
And it's like, you call them and it's like, all right, great. I just called my aunt and said, hi, how's it going? On the phone. Like, I feel like that call didn't move my business forward.
Exactly.
But you do 25 and now you got a listing appointment.
Exactly.
And
and the best part is, like, you'll be doing that stuff or you'll be prospecting, and the next thing you know, like, they're coming back, like somebody just randomly calls you and you're like, hey, that's what happens is when you are active, there's the law of attraction. Right. It is a real thing.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times that I've been doing this and have gotten no results, but then like hours later I get a call randomly, I'm like, this is
or you're
awesome.
calling FSBOs and then boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone from your sphere calls you and they're like, hey, can you come list my house?
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is honestly the truth.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I always ask them, like, I don't get how, I believe it 100%. I don't know why it works or, how, but it's crazy. So if people want to reach out to you or like join your team, send you referral business, what should they do?
So they can go to themauzgroup.com. So
okay.
THEMAUZ group.com. My cell phone is 856-343-0130, or they can email me at dan@themauzgroup.com. And we're over here in the South Jersey area. We cover all the way from Burlington County all the way down to the shore points. So You got Burlington County, Camden, Gloucester, Salem, Atlantic County, Cape May County.
Awesome.
Cumberland County areas, so we'll cover all the way there. And if it's something that we don't know, we'll get you connected with another agent that will.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just connected another agent in Florida. I get nothing out of it. It makes me look good to get a referral.
Right.
So
you've done that. I just anytime someone says New Jersey, I just send it to you.
Yeah, you've
and
been
I'm
fantastic, man.
Yeah, but you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and thank you all for listening. If you got anything out of this, please share it with somebody. We're trying to grow so we can get more great guests. And thanks a lot. Have a great day.